Everyone knows about George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and the great moments that defined the Battle of New York during the American Revolution. But what about the unsung heroes, the lesser-known figures who played pivotal roles in this epic struggle? Today we're going to dive into the untold stories of the Battle of New York and introduce you to the key figures you've probably never heard of. Stick around because these names deserve to be remembered. The Battle of New York, fought between August 1776 and the winter of 1777, was a crucial turning point in the American Revolution. New York was the key strategic hub, and both the Continental Army and the British forces knew that controlling the city meant controlling the future of the Revolution. While the battle saw Washington and his men retreat, there were several figures who played critical roles in shaping the course of events. Let's explore their stories. First up, Nathaniel Woodhull. Though his name may not ring a bell, Woodhull was a key figure during the early stages of the Battle of New York. He was a militia leader from Long Island who fought bravely during the Battle of Brooklyn. After a fierce clash with the British, Woodhull was captured. While in captivity, he was brutalized and eventually died from his wounds. His sacrifice was a symbol of the loyalty and determination of the Continental Army. Sadly, his name was often overshadowed by the larger-than-life figures in the Revolution, but his bravery deserves to be remembered. Next we have Mary Lindley Murray, a heroine whose quick thinking saved American lives during the Battle of Long Island. As the British advanced, Murray used her home as a strategic outpost, guiding Washington's retreat by deceiving British officers into thinking that American forces were more prepared than they actually were. She famously bought valuable time for the Continental Army's retreat, saving countless soldiers from capture or death. Yet her story has often been forgotten in the narrative of this battle. While names like Crispus Attucks and James Armistead are often remembered, there were many black soldiers who fought in the Battle of New York. Despite the fact that slavery still existed in the colonies, black men enlisted in the Continental Army, seeking freedom and fighting for the cause of independence. These soldiers fought alongside their white counterparts, and their contributions were pivotal in the outcome of several key battles. Yet many of their stories have been left out of mainstream accounts of the Revolution. It's time we recognize their bravery. John Glover. A name history often overlooks, yet his actions saved the Continental Army from certain destruction. A Massachusetts fisherman turned military leader, Glover commanded the Marblehead Regiment, an elite group of sailors and soldiers. During the Battle of Long Island, Washington's army was on the brink of annihilation. Outnumbered and trapped by the British, escape seemed impossible. But Glover and his men had other plans. Through treacherous waters, under the cover of darkness, Glover's men ferried thousands of soldiers across the East River, saving the army and quite possibly the Revolution itself. Without Glover's skill and courage, the American fight for independence could have ended that very night. Yet few remember his name. Meet Thomas Knowlton, the leader of an elite group known as Knowlton's Rangers, America's first official intelligence unit. These men were not ordinary soldiers. They were scouts, spies, and saboteurs, trained in unconventional warfare. As the British Army advanced, Knowlton and his Rangers used guerrilla tactics, gathering intelligence and striking when the enemy least expected it. One of his most famous engagements was at the Battle of Harlem Heights, where his men ambushed the British, turning the tide of the fight. Unfortunately, Knowlton's bravery came at a cost. During the battle, he was mortally wounded while leading from the front. His last words? "You see, my lads, I am mortally wounded, but do not retreat. The world is watching you." Though he died that day, Knowlton's legacy lived on. His Rangers laid the foundation for modern U.S. military intelligence, proving that strategy and stealth could rival sheer force. In a war where information meant survival, Washington needed eyes behind enemy lines. Enter the Culper Ring, America's first organized spy network, operating in total secrecy. Led by Abraham Woodhull and Robert Townsend, this network used invisible ink-coded letters, and even laundry lines to send messages across British-occupied New York. Their intelligence helped uncover British plans, disrupt enemy operations, and even expose Benedict Arnold's treason. But secrecy was everything. Getting caught meant death. Unlike Nathan Hale, the Culper spies didn't seek glory. They lived in the shadows, ensuring Washington always had the information he needed to strike at the right time. Without them, the war might have ended very differently. They were never officially recognized, but their work remains one of the greatest untold stories of the Revolution. Prince Estabrook was no ordinary soldier. He was a pioneer of freedom in more ways than one. A black man living in colonial America, he was among the first to take up arms in the Revolutionary War. On April 19, 1775, as British troops marched into Lexington, Estabrook stood alongside white militiamen ready to fight. When the first shots of the war rang out, Estabrook was wounded in the skirmish. But instead of retreating, he recovered and continued to serve in the Continental Army for years, proving his dedication to the American cause. Despite his sacrifice, the freedom he fought for was not immediately granted to him. Like many black soldiers of the Revolution, he faced the harsh reality that the ideals of liberty did not yet extend to all. Yet his bravery and service paved the way for future generations, challenging the very foundation of what America stood for. His story, like many others, has been overshadowed by history. But Prince Estabrook's legacy as one of the first black patriots remains an enduring symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the fight for true freedom. The Battle of New York was more than just a military engagement. It was a test of resilience, strategy, and sacrifice. While history often remembers Washington and his generals, the victory was shaped by lesser-known heroes. Spies who risked everything, soldiers who stood against impossible odds, and civilians who used their wit to outmaneuver the enemy. Their names may not be in every textbook, but their impact is undeniable. The American Revolution was won not just by battles, but by the courage of ordinary people who chose to fight in extraordinary ways. As we walk the streets of New York today beneath the towering skyline, we stand on the very ground where these unsung heroes changed history. Their legacy lives on in the freedom we cherish. These were the secret heroes of the Battle of New York, a tribute to those who fought, sacrificed, and endured.